Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. Well, one of the most important things to the individual is to understand manifesting. Now, there's some very interesting incidents have happened recently from our Triforce system owners. And I think it's very important that everyone understands the manifestation process. I've talked about this a long time, and most people just don't get it in terms of what's going to happen in your life. Now, life is very complicated, and everybody wants a clean, straight line of manifestation. So you need money. Something happens that it comes to you very easily. Something opens up. What could this be? Well, you have to understand that manifesting is 100% based on your personal life. And I've talked about this many times in terms of having channels. How do things come to you? How are they going to come to you? Well, the problem is all of us are kind of stuck in a rut. There's very little channels open to all of us of how things will actually manifest. It's very unlikely that there's going to be direct ways of, let's say, money coming to you. So you always have to look for, and I stress this constantly, always be aware. Where do opportunities pop up? So if you're looking to make money, you could be passing your local bookstore. You could be wherever you're at, even in all of the big box stores now. A lot of them have magazine sections and other things. Well, maybe you're going to go by there and a magazine out of the hundreds will catch your eye that says business opportunity. Or maybe you're told, maybe I should go look at that. Maybe a book will pop up. Maybe you're on the internet and instead of punching in the same old garbage, you punch in something a little bit different. Life is about triggering openings for you. It's like ascension is constantly, energies are coming to you to help you ascend to become a higher person. Now, the problem is you don't pay attention to any of these things. You're too busy worrying about the survival of yourself, your family, and of course all your petty little needs, your little sexual needs, your money needs. All these things come into the fact of they encompass your life to a point where you're really not seeking anything of value. So as such, you're stuck in a rut and then things don't happen. Everybody wants something straightforward, but if you need money, how is it going to come to you? Through your job? Well, that's kind of, forget about that. I mean, if you're lucky, an opportunity will open. You'll get a promotion, you get a few dollars. But does that really help your life? Well, it does to a degree. Maybe you'll be able to transfer. Maybe you'll be able to find a different place within the same company that you like better and pays you more money. Well, these are all opportunities that could come to you, but even these are limited. How much of that's going to really happen? If you're an executive, are you going to be able to go up in that company higher? Well, probably not. Are the people in that company going to change? Probably not. So you're not going to get opportunities from them. You're going to do your job, and if you empower yourself, whatever opportunities are there will make themselves known. But in a lot of ways, you'd have to do something that is considered very high risky and very traumatic. And that would be leaving that job for another job. But what are you going? From the frying pan into the fire? So people don't want to do that. But this is, of course, how taking risks allow you to potentially make a lot more money. But that may not be a wise thing to do in this job market right now, or job markets in general, unless you're getting a very lucrative package offered by someone else. But this is something to look at. I've seen this happen in people's lives, people who have middle-level management. Well, you can move around and find companies that are going to pay you a lot more. There's an awful lot of people in the business world that pay an awful lot of money. And you have to seek them out. And if you're in a job that is kind of similar, meaning you're middle-level management, well, maybe you ought to leave the security of one industry to get into another. Move into the computer industry, the software industry, taking your skills into an industry that pays really well. And where there's lots of new jobs instead of being dependent upon aircraft industry, which has been destroyed because of a lack of flying, getting connected to the military, which tend to have its ups and downs. So all of these things you may want to move into a more high-tech area. What about the movie business? There's lots and lots of jobs there, and there's potential to make lots of money, as well as getting good pay. So you may be an aircraft engineer, but why not move into Hollywood? Your skills and your abilities there can be used as well. So you have to go into industries that you wouldn't normally think of. But if you have a good skill, you've been at a job for 20 years or whatever it is, you can take that and move somewhere else, even if it's laterally, to get potential opportunities. Many people have gotten into jobs because of the fact that they have been connected to industries. I recently, which I do all the time, I love to listen to commentaries on movies. And a person who was in the skunk works at Lockheed, building guidance system for missiles, transferred into the movie business. So, well, I'm assuming he was paid okay, like most military contractors are, some better than others. He was able to get into the movie business and get into something much more interesting that paid him a lot more. Now, I've heard these stories in many places before. People don't understand your particular skills and where you can use them other places. So if you're in a particular segment of the population, working in a particular industry, you think you have to stay there. Well, you don't. You have a skill that you can use anywhere. And certainly there are many, as I just mentioned, businesses which are okay, but you can do better other places. Are you going to do that? Well, that's a risk, and that's a problem. Nobody really wants to do that. And this is very important to understand because I'm going to bring this in a few minutes. Excuse me. So there's lots of ways of actually doing things that you need to look at as the bigger picture. But again, that's not what people call manifesting. They want to manifest where they are, sitting on their couch, drinking beer, watching whatever. So, Gilligan's Island are sports, of course. Can't get enough of them sports. Endless hours are wasted in that area. So, and it's just, basically it's just mental masturbation. It gets you absolutely nowhere. And basically has very negative effects in your life. So as we move into these areas, everyone needs to understand the realities of how things are going to manifest. You can go and do all the manifests you want. You can have all the amulets. You can use all the scalar discs. You can have a Triforce system, etc. And then people say, well, I'm not Bill Gates. That's right. You are not Bill Gates. You don't have his opportunities. You don't have a massive network. You're not a rich person. So things aren't going to come to you. And, a lot of corporations fail. I mean, there's so many things that Microsoft has done that they've failed at and have lost money that it is unbelievable. People think everything they know. No, it isn't. Google buys companies for $50 million and just says, gee, I'm not interested. Well, it's nice you have that kind of money to do that. But the bottom line is it's not success. And a lot of things don't work. And people say, well, it was good for last month. It's no good for today. So you have to drop it even if you're losing. A lot of people stay with the dead horse. Well, that dead horse is never going to get up. Now, you should understand that these are the other benefits you get when doing manifesting. Are you being directed in the right area? Are you making the right decisions? Life is about making decisions. And if you make correct decisions that may not pay off for you instantly, in the childish mind that most people look at, you still will be successful in the longer term as you make the right decisions. Now, people who have taken time and seriously and have got involved in all sorts of different fields. And maybe you're working at a job, you want to stay there, and of course in these times it seems illogical to change, but don't let the times hold you back. It's all about opportunities. Now, the entire planet can be booming and everybody, quote, is successful. I've heard this many times, and I haven't seen any increases. Everybody says, oh, everybody's doing better, there's no unemployment. Yeah, where? I don't see any of those results. And generally, people that I talk to are going along fine. They're not had any increases. So this is another illusionary situation. And the fact that, 10 billion jobs have been created picking up trash somewhere or in some service industry that doesn't pay anything really has no value to you. So all of this is an illusion. So you've got to look for opportunities, and when you're using manifesting technologies, things ought to pop up, and you need to be aware of them. You need to be, why are you directed here? Why has this come to you? Why has this person contacted you? I do this all the time. I say, well, it's strange, and as odd as it may seem, I take these things, people's comments and what they're interested in and what sells, as a movement in an area that, well, you should look at that. Is that something you should be helping people with for mutual benefit again? So what does all that mean? So you are getting messages. People are coming to you and say, I want information on extraterrestrial, especially if you open the subject matter. So I've opened the subject matter. I've made certain lectures on it. So what does that mean, in fact? Well, it's a response. Is anybody interested in that? And of course, we're researchers, so some of it does matter in terms of we're always looking that, what are people interested out there, so we can get them quality information on it so that there's mutual benefit, meaning we make sales, you're happy. But when we do go and do our other research, which people don't even know about, in areas that we consider very important. But you have to look at the world around you, and you have to figure out, well, what's going on and what kind of opportunities come to me. Now, you're not following with everybody else out there. Oh, it's bad now, we don't do anything. Well, a certain amount of these things, you have to be aware of your international environment. What's going on? What's the game that's being played? What are the systems that's set up? You've got to understand this. And, everybody's stuck in their little box, and it's downright amusing and bizarre. People who defend stupid systems because I was bored there, or you live in the urban myth of someone is a great martial artist. I mean, this is just absurd. But you're going to be stuck in that because you've been told that. You're a programmed little turd, and it's just the way it goes. So, and you got to remember, it's not you, it's the people out there. So just remember that's who you're dealing with. So anytime you try and do anything different, you're going to come against those problems. So, but to you as a manifesting scientist, that really doesn't matter. You're manifesting for you in your life. Now, while the world's economies have went down the dumpers, there are people who are making a fortune. People are still investing in things. They're still doing things. There's still money out there. Now, we are in a horrible, horrible situation at this particular time with the actual viruses, which I see will be going on for many, many years. At the recording of this in 2020, almost the end of the year, I see this going on maybe indefinitely. There's always going to be new illnesses. We've never cured anybody. We have nothing to fight basic viruses that the public knows about, and this is a reality. And everybody's going to come into contact with it one way or another. So, there are things to do there as well. And we educate you in a lot of healing, which seems to be something that most of the public is not overly interested in. Until you're on your deathbed, then you're going to find out quite differently. Or sick, your family's sick, or, remember, if one person in your family goes down, they take all of you. If you have to come home to sick people, you're going to spend your time doing that. You're going to have problems with it. That's probably going to hurt functioning of your little family unit, even to the point of potentially if someone is very ill, you're going to lose lots of money. So this is how the whole system works. So one thing, so if anybody's affected, and this happens in your society in a bigger way, but generally there's someone to replace someone else. So it's unlikely that the store's going to be closed because there's sick people can't come there and work. There'll be somebody. So you've got to understand all this about it. So you've always got to be seeking out what are the opportunities that came to me. And don't look at things as the fact that they are odd or different. See, you're passing, it's flying over your head, and you need to. So, as the old saying I've told to so many people so many times, we're all too busy picking up quarters off the ground, and while we're doing that, $100 bills are flying over our heads. And I find this to be so true. We're so caught up in day-to-day functioning of life that we have great trouble seeing the opportunities that come to us. So if things what? Now what happens? Okay? I hope everybody gets that. Oh, that's nice little talky door. It's so mystical. Well, it is to a degree. There's nothing solid there to grab onto. So that's right. But it's very, very important in the bigger picture if you don't recognize things. So we are never wide. The reason I brought this up is the reason we don't recognize these things is because we are afraid and we're stuck. Well, how do I change my job? I'm going to move from Kentucky to Washington State, where all the people are moving now because that's where all the high tech is. Ooh, that's scary. So that's right. So most likely you're not going to do that. So there's transition areas again, and this is where opportunities come up as well. Maybe you have a business out there. Now, anybody who's not in any kind of sideline is a fool. In this day and age, you need to make money and lots of it. The cost of everything is outrageous. Everybody's in debt for medical and other things. School, medical. I mean, they've made you the indentured slaves they wanted to. And it's very easy to fall into that. After all, countries have done it all the time. Look at the EU. The EU is loaded with indentured slaves because they got the credit cards from Das Nazis, and now they owe their soul. And what are they going to do? And it's interesting that those countries, of course, major trading partner is the people who loan them money. So you not only do they lock you in with making payments, they make sure that you trade with them. So all people have to do is look around to all those countries that were brought into the EU that are nobodies, like Finland, who not only were they past Nazi sympathizers, but now owe $150 billion to the German banks. Oh, the great society, ooh, we have everything. Yeah, I think America, if they had $150 billion poured into the economy, probably doing a little better too. So these are the type of things you have to look at and what's the reality. So it's not just people that have these problems. You go into wrong directions, and what do you do now? So this is a problem. So it's unlikely that people are going to do it. So how do things manifest in your life? Well, I'll tell you right now that only way things can manifest in most people's life is the same premise where life is based on. And basically life is based on fear. Most people do things out of fear. And this is something we have to, there's two things you have to be careful of, and that's hope and fear. Now, that sounds terrible, but hope is an illusion. Well, things will get better. Will they? Not really. And that tends to have you sit there and hope things will get better instead of fighting to make things better. Fear, of course, is a very disabler. It keeps you in one spot surviving and gets you nowhere. But we all do that. Most people are physically fit out there, who do work out and other things and try and eat better, are people that are doing it not from the fact that they want to be better, but they want to make sure they don't get sick. They want to be, as everything is ran by sexuality, they want to be sexually looking good. So they have opportunities. So generally a fat body is not going to be something that attracts other people. So all of this needs to be part of what we understand. So you're working at a fear there, not the fact that, gee, I look good and feel good and I'm able to do. No, you're fearful that you're going to be sick and unwanted in society. So this is how everything works in life. Now, when you're stuck in these realities, what happens? So you go out there and you get your little Triforce system, a fantastic manifesting tool. All the time I get fantastic feedback. But, people don't like some of the feedback. But as is one person, they constantly are getting they need money. They're constantly getting financial breaks. This comes up, that comes up, they get a big discount, somebody comes in there, figures out financing for them, etc., etc. So they go from needing a roof to getting a roof for virtually nothing. In terms of the financing is very low, or someone is integrating it in, whatever it may be. These are the type of things that happen. So let's go to two cases that I just dealt with here. Someone that was dealing with two kind of financial issues. Now, and I find this very, very interesting because this is how the world works, because the world is not a fun place. Now, one person who wanted money and keeps having money coming in every time a bill comes, the Triforce system manifests for them. One way or another, whether it's winning $200 at the lottery or getting a deal here or there, it all works this way. And that's how the systems work. They don't plop money on your front porch. If I could manifest to that level, I wouldn't sell the technology. I'd use it myself and then just donate money, build stuff, etc. It works in your life. What are you doing? So you're not going to win the lotto, let's say, and that's a bad example, which is very difficult to win. But if you're a person who never plays the lotto, you're not going to win the lotto. So everything is relative. So nothing's going to fall at your feet. Nobody's going to come and give you, oh, you just found a bucket of money somewhere. Well, it just is not going to work. Things like that don't generally happen. Things come out of the blue sometimes. And I tell people, you never know. Relatives, I've heard this on many occasions, relatives they never knew left them money. A distant relative left them money that was then delivered to them. Things come up in different areas that are very, very unexpected. And as I said, a lot of people just get discounts. Remember, a huge discount of something you're going to buy is money in your pocket. So if something costs you $500 normally and you get it for $200, well, you just manifested $300 out of nowhere. So these are the way things work. But you have in your head that you got to get $500 from somebody that gives it to you. So that's not how life works in general. Of course, all these things do happen, but that's not something that you should be counting on. So this person, of course, was pretty much burnt out now, is getting close to the age of retirement and wants to retire now, especially after all these things happening with the problems we're having, where he works in a very public job where he's coming in contact with hundreds and hundreds of people working in an amusement park. This ain't a good time to be in an amusement park. So, not with potentially what's going on. And of course, regardless of what anybody wants to say about this, there certainly seems to be an awful lot of illness. But in general, that is not the only thing. Plain and simple, you get to a certain age, you're burnt out. A person wants to retire. He doesn't want to go back in this horrible situation. What happens? Well, probably you would think a terrible thing happened. I'm not necessarily sure it's terrible. Of course it is, but this is how manifestation works. And the point is that he got a serious flare-up of a health condition which prevented him from working. Isn't that interesting? All of a sudden, relatively out of the blue. Certainly didn't have this time in all the many, many years that he was working. He never missed much time, and certainly not from this particular condition, which caused certain problems. So, all of a sudden, this became acute. This was so after all those years of working, standing on his feet all day, working in this amusement park, all of a sudden he has something that pretty much disables him, which certainly isn't comfortable. So, this is a particular type of, I believe it to be a very controllable, if you know what you're doing, but difficult situation that many males run into, a prostate condition, which went to an extreme, forcing him that he can't function, he can't drive, he can't move, he can't stand. What do you do with these things? And it's very painful and something that most males go through to one degree or another. And of course, prostate cancer is very common. So here he is after all these years. He's only got a year or so to go, but is totally burnt out and really can't face it. He just can't face going to this and having to deal with this. So what happens? Well, how are you going to manifest for this person? They're going to pile of money on their door? They don't have any backgrounds. They're not invested in anything. They're just a person who's worked at a job for all their lives. And this would be pretty much with everybody else. So to think that money's going to come to you from some side business or anything, just forget that. It's impossible with this person. They don't really have the abilities to do anything other than their actual job. And they've done well through life in general of being able to find a good place to live and be able to settle down in retirement in a nice location and so forth. And has apparently a decent relationship of another person who, again, doesn't really have any skills outside their job. So all of that adds up to exactly what's happening in someone's life. I would say this is very typical. So you don't have any side hustles going on. You don't have any way to make money. So what happened? So the point, this person who put all these thought forms into the Triforce system to manifest, well, how is it going to manifest? Well, it manifested in taking a position of a person who had a physical problem of a minor degree into a more serious degree. But it didn't give somebody cancer. These are things that can be handled. So how is it going to work in his life? Well, this forced him to be able to get, and was granted to him, disability. This disability, because this is not something that is going to be taken care of in a few months or even a year, is going to be something that's going to take months and months to get to a point where he can function again. Just long enough to get on his retirement. Wasn't that interesting? Never having to go back. And if you think that going back to a giant amusement park with everybody from all around the world spitting on you with diseases from everything is a good place to be, I don't think so. So having to go through some serious discomfort, some minor operations and so forth, well, this is a pretty radical way to go, but was the only way to go. There's no other way this person would have been able to pull this off. So the point is, he's going to be able to do that. He's working with his through these things to get to the age of retirement, and this will give him the buffer that he needs to do that, having to go back. And of course, there's a price to pay for everything. That's another thing with manifestation I don't talk too much, but I found that there is a price to pay for radical manifestations. You know, this is an old understanding that many people have had in the metaphysical occult community, is that, you know, the gods give you something and the gods take something. And this does seem to be real. Not anything is paid without a price to a certain degree. So, and again, we'd like that. Oh, well, it just happened like this. You know, I stubbed my toe and got disability and didn't have to go to work. And isn't that wonderful? I'm sitting here drinking beer, watching TV, and not a problem. Well, it's not going to work like that. You're certainly not going to get benefits for that to do that. So the whole idea is that this had to be something that is getting better. The condition is improving now. And something that he has to pay the price for, though. So now this time between what he's doing now and his ultimate retirement, he's going to have to heal himself, which is a good idea anyway. It's a good time to do this pre-retirement so that you're in better shape when you retire. So here you go. This is how it manifested, and manifested perfectly at a price. Now let's talk about another price, which is indirect, but I find very fascinating. Another person I knew who has a Triforce system and working with, well, he's been trying to raise the money to move out of his environment, which ain't a good one. Living in a city or particularly an apartment complex, which is generally lower priced, there's a lot of bad people in there, even though it's a student area. But the problem is that there's a lot of bad people in that area. And of course, what happens with everything that's going on? Well, you know, a lot of areas are potentially very dangerous because of the gangs and everything else. This happened even in a neighborhood I lived in, which was pretty good, but then started to go down. And of course, your police and your gangs, what's the difference? Well, there is no difference. So they're supporting them. So gangs never disappear. And that's a way of life for these people. So that's and they want it this way because that's who does the dirty work for the police. People need to understand that. But beyond that, so this is a dangerous area. So what happened? So he's saving his money there. He's looking around. And of course, difficult when you're a student and everything else to try and get some money, working part-time jobs to move with. So what happens? Now, I'm not sure. In his building or right near him, 2 people were shot. And everybody was in that area, of course, was thrown into a tizzy because of the fact that shot, and apparently a lot of people witnessed real life, which means you don't grab your chest and fall down. Lots of red stuff comes out, and it's pretty shocking if you see real life violence. You know, I'm always amazed by the fact the news media doesn't show you real life violence. Only on Al Jazeera news do they actually show people getting shot and their legs blown off, things we ought to see. But you won't get that from the regular news networks because they don't want to show you reality. That's too traumatizing. People just die like in the movies. Very typical of all Western news media. So the point is that 2 people were, I don't think anybody was killed, I'm trying to remember, but there was 2 people that were hurt seriously from gunshot wounds. So needless to say, this, of course, got known in his family unit, who, of course, before this, it's your problem, kid. But now, of course, gobs of money are being thrown at him. All his family has come forward, paid for his money to move, and he has now moved. Interesting. So, very interesting. So this is how it works. Now, nothing happened to him personally. So, nor was he really ever threatened. But he was in a place where things could manifest around here to make the issue happen now. This is manifesting. So, since he was in the general area of these incidents and being in an area that's not going to change, this was what happened that got him immediate changes over to somewhere else. So that's manifesting. So if you don't understand that, then you're missing the point. You're missing the point of what's going on with everyone out there in terms of how manifesting works. There was no other way he was going to get money. Sure, it'll take months of him working, and jobs were provided for him that make decent money and to save it, but the point is it's going to take months. How do you get this taken care of, which really has nothing to do with him again? This is really kind of gifts from God. Family has the money, and they put it out and did it. He didn't have to work 6 or 8 months because they wanted to buy more boxes of Wheaties or whatever the hell people spend money on. They had the money to help him get into a new apartment in a better area, and they had it immediately. So instead of doing that, manifestation energies had to take care of it. How are they going to do it? Well, there was a car accident in front of my house, Mom. Oh, yeah, well, car accidents happen, Sean. That's the way it goes. Okay, click. I mean, this is the type of things that you're going to get. So what is going to make somebody move? Well, generally people getting shot at and getting holes blown in them, bleeding all over the place and being dragged to hospitals who may or may not live. This is kind of a motivator. This is what's going to get action. That's how it works. That's how manifesting works, because you're not going to do anything, as I prefaced all this stuff, because of the difficulties and risk it takes. It's always better to stay in your own personal little hole, your own little place of security that you think is secure, instead of making moves quick and fast to get things done. You're going to be forced out. And that's how people always work. So you have to have very strong plans of how you're going to do things and find ways to make them manifest as you can before things like this happen. But this is how life is. You have to look at your life and say, what's going to make you move? How are you going to do it? Well, all of this happens to the fact that you are forced into it one way or another. Or you may have plans. Like here's a guy had plans to do this, which would take a long period of time. But that could be putting his life in danger. Maybe the next person shot would have been him. The bottom line is that, yes, you can do protections and everything else. And generally people that get into dangerous situations when they're using Triforce systems or other protections get by. They tend to be the ones that survive. They tend to be the ones that don't get into the serious car accidents. But they get into accidents, and maybe their entire car was completely destroyed, but they walked away from it. This is what happens in terms of these things. So there's a level of this because the empowerments are trying to work within your life again. So the whole idea is that it may be impossible not to be hurt, but it certainly is possible not to be killed or seriously injured. So all of this has to be understood in the bigger picture. You're not living in a world by yourself, and that's why I keep stressing, well, what's going on in the world? What's happening in the world? Well, you know that. Do you think you're going to go to a certain place, be okay, and you're going to be okay, but I've got my Triforce protecting me? Well, the point is yes, it's going to help you. Is it going to help you survive or have no problems? Well, it's going to help you survive, but it doesn't mean you're going to have no problems. If you're going to go into a dangerous area or deal with people that are discreditable, people who are potentially into a whole bunch of bad things, well, you're going to be affected by that to one degree or another. Will it be a small degree or a high degree? So this is what you have to keep in mind, and you have to know what's happening in your world and take steps to do it. Well, generally, when I'm moving's a pain in the butt, and it takes a lot of money and everything else. Well, you don't do that unless somebody is shooting at you, and then, of course, somebody comes in and gives you help. So this is a serious situation that was taken care of instantly, and within 2 weeks, he was in another place. So this is how it works. And the same thing with someone trying to retire. Well, how is he possibly going to do this? Well, unfortunately, you're going to have to go through a route where it was made very simple to you. And the fact is, being able to have money that can carry you without having to go to a job, the only way you're going to do that is what? Well, you're going to have to be. What other alternative was there? Again, the money on the porch, be nice. As I said, when I figure that out, you'll never hear from me again. So the whole idea is not how it works. So the point is, the way it would work in a situation like this is exactly what happened. So it's a perfect manifestation, basically, because it's impossible to do anything else. So how does that particularly work? They worked, but there was a price to pay. And of course, while the other person didn't pay any price directly, certainly other people did in his areas, which would have happened anyway. Maybe it would have happened a block away, but the manifestation tools brought it right into his apartment building. Isn't that interesting? That's how it works, because those incidents are going to happen anyway. They might as well happen near you so that things are motivated. So that's the world of manifestation. People should understand that and understand how things manifest when you have a very little scope. And you have to also have channels to bring money to you. This happens all the time. Every time IGOS needs extra money for one thing or another, a little ritual is done, and a week or so later, even within days, thousands of dollars of orders come into us for the money that we needed. This is what just happened recently, where we've had major changes which cost us thousands and thousands of dollars, but the money was provided. This is how it works. So understand all that, understand how this works, and be aware. If you have some way, some channels, if you don't, start creating channels. Well, how are things going to come to you? There are many ways of doing things depending on your time element, but you should be involved in some sort of way that is an open channel to bring you money. Are you an affiliate? Are you working in some business? Are you trying to sell products? If you're wasting a lot of time on social media and not having some sort of affiliate links to some company, this can be easily done with, of course, Amazon. The IGOS is offering these kind of things right now, but you should be doing that. It could be $10, $20. Who knows? You shouldn't be doing anything without what they call monetizing it. That means, can you make money from it? Whatever your hobby is, if you're posting anything or doing anything, well, is there a way to make money from it? And this should be a primary. This is how we have to think in this day and age. And things have got even worse. People that don't do this are 100% dependent on bad jobs that will never pay you well. I heard someone recently on some show saying how much money he made, but he never had any. He made $120,000 a year. But of course, like a lot of people that make money, his mortgage was $4,000 a month. So the point is you're eating up lots of money. And this, of course, is the case with most people that go in all these areas, that the more money you make, the more you spend. And you kind of should do the opposite. If you have a really good job, try and find everything that's less expensive, not keep upgrading into more and more enslavements. But this is hard to do, and you're conditioned not to do it. How many people have said, well, gee, I'm moving to a less expensive place? Have you heard that? Unless they've lost a job or income. Well, you ought to do that when your income is high. You don't need all these toys and other things. You should find places where you can live cheaper, or someone how to reduce the money you pay monthly somehow in where you're living. So all of this is ways of looking at things. And if you don't have a side hustle as it goes, well, what is your interest? You can make money off of YouTube. You like going to YouTube? Well, post your own stuff. Figure out what to put up there. Now, all these things take certain skills. You've got to find something that fits into your skill set. But you should be doing something on the side, slowly building, especially when you don't need it, as a positive, fun way of doing things. Working with things you like that help society, etc. We encourage this with people with our new systems we've set up with IGOS. Well, are you helping the world by getting really quality information out there and empowering people? Well, why aren't you? Well, you can do it and make money as well. And there may be some other area that you're interested in as well, but nobody does what IGOS does. And if more people had this technology, and if more people listened to lectures like this, the world would be a much better place. So with that, until next time.